Okay, hey, Ryan here with James for the weekly mortgage update. We're going to jump right in with tax reform and real estate. A lot of news out there, James. What are the implications here?
Hey, Ryan. The initial plan out of the House is basically stating that they will decrease the mortgage interest deduction to $500,000 from $1 million, and they are going to limit the real estate tax deduction to $10,000, and also eliminate the ability. So if you of the buying a property, primary residence, if you're going from a primary residence to primary residence, typically the way it is now, you don't pay taxes, right, on the gain.
Right.
So they're talking in the plan as it stands currently, they're eliminating that you will pay capital gains on the sale of a primary, even if you're going into another primary residence. So pretty serious implications. National Association of Realtors, National Association of Home Builders, Mortgage Bankers Association, all definitely raising up in arms about this. And all of these limitations to real estate. I mean, look, if you live in Florida, it sounds really good, I think, right? Because if you're not paying state taxes there, which is a great thing, right? And for the most part, for the average person, real estate taxes maybe are not much more than $10,000, so you're still going to get the full benefit of writing off your taxes.
Right.
And your average, mortgage size is less than $1 million, right? So even if you own multiple properties, the tax cut looks like it's really good for business, which is obviously, as a business owner, I'm happy about that. But if they're eliminating loopholes, they're eliminating the state deductions, which we can argue, look, the states should do a better job of governing their states. Like Florida, who's done an amazing job, and there's no state income tax there as it is. Why should the federal government subsidize the states? That's basically the premise behind it. But if you live in California, you live in New Jersey, you live in New York, you live in Illinois, or you live in Massachusetts, you're really not liking this plan too much from those perspectives.
Because the average the average sales price, the average mortgage size of a house is bigger. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, and look, I live in a modest home, probably valued around $600,000. In Nutley, New Jersey, and my taxes are $15,000. So, I'm definitely not the 1%er out there, and it's not like I'm living in a mansion somewhere either. So, you apply these things to everyday people, and especially like I said, our area here it is very much punitive now. Some of it is good, where they're talking about maybe eliminating the alternative minimum tax. I've already heard some talk today that they were going to, probably raise that $10,000 limit on the real estate tax deduction. But mortgage interest deduction, if you're a real estate investor out there, and obviously it's an incentive to buy real estate. And also paying capital gains, on the primary residence. So if you're going to tell me I get rid of the AMT and I can only cap my real estate tax deduction at $10,000, okay, I can live with that. But if you're telling me that, I might want to buy a nicer home, or I'm moving out of the area and I get relocated and I have to sell my primary and I'm going to go buy a property, another primary, home in Florida. Now I have to pay long-term, capital gains at I think they're 15-20%, I believe, long-term capital gains. That really doesn't motivate me much to sell and to trade up, or have go take that job in Florida and move my family down there if I'm going to have to pay an extra 20-30 grand to do it. And so I think those two things really primarily are the sticking points here. And they've already said it. I think, 30, 40, 50 Congress people from New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois are saying, guys, this definitely isn't working, for our constituents. And, tax plans or these negotiations don't always work for everyone, but let's not forget what is middle class. Middle class it means a lot of different things depending on where you live in the country. And that's the reality of it.
So this is, well, just so everybody knows, this isn't, because I don't watch the news every day, but this is not the law now. This is just proposals.
Yeah, it hasn't passed. They still have to put the final plan together. It's got to be voted. It's got to be agreed upon in both houses. It's just the way it stands today. And we knew this was coming. I mean, I did because last week in the Journal and going into last weekend, basically the National Association of Home Builders was pressing on Speaker Ryan's office pretty hard about the interest rate, the mortgage interest deduction, or even saying, look, if you're not going to allow the deduction, maybe give a credit for owning a home, something that you still benefits you from a tax perspective, because we all know, we all use that deduction, and it is incentive for owning a home. Everyone always says, show too much money in your taxes, buy a house. At least you own something and you can get the tax benefit. And for that to go away, especially, I'm the man with the phrase, residential real estate is back. That really would put a crimp in things. So we'll see what happens. And if it is so pro-business, which is a good thing, pro-corporation, the flip side of that is you'll be buying a lot of real estate in corporations.
Yeah.
And getting the benefits there where, you're experienced, we're talking about that here. I think it matters more to be a knowledgeable mortgage advisor if we're going to start seeing a lot more people claiming their income in corporations, holding real estate in corporations, because obviously, they're going to adapt to the new laws. It's just going to get a little more complicated from a financing perspective and how business is done.
So are you saying some people might actually buy a property under an LLC now instead of buying it as a primary in their own name?
That's right. And you can put your primary home in an LLC too. Many people don't know that, but you can. But yes, and even using S corps, wherever that tax benefit is going to be the greatest, because they're talking about taking that corporate rate down to 20%. Now, if I hold my real estate in an S corp and I'm taxed at 20%, and within that S corp I can take all of those deductions that come with the mortgage and the taxes and pay myself out on a dividend basis, which on dividends I'm only paying 15% at the personal level. I do suspect in that framework you're going to see probably a lot more than that. And that's probably, I can't speak for him, he hasn't told me, but probably where Trump is looking at this and saying I can get behind this, because he's owned all his real estate in corporations. And that's, when he says he doesn't want to release his tax returns because he doesn't show income, it's probably true that he doesn't show income because he holds all that real estate in corporations and LLCs, and they just wash away at the personal level. There's no income there.
So that next question I have for you is what kind of programs does Bond Street have for? I mean, if I'm a first-time home buyer, I'm not going to go start a corporation to buy a house because I'm not going to have the same options available to me.
Correct. Nothing's going to change for that person.
Right.
I think that if you're an independent contractor, let's say, schedule, a 1099 type employee, you may then take that income through an S corp instead of filing a Schedule C on your personal 1040. So there might be some dynamic change on how your income is reported for tax purposes, and therefore an extra level of analysis when qualifying for mortgages. But yes, this isn't a game changer by any means for the first-time home buyer, and in most places. But again, we were just talking about this, with a friend and a partner out in LA. First-time home buyer in Orange County is 700,000. Where here in New Jersey it might be 200,000-300,000, depending on the area. But it's much more common that it's north of 500 in Orange County. So I think we have to try to really think some of these things through. And if we're talking about the Rust Belt of the country, as they call it, which is, I guess, the best thing to call it, but states like Florida, I mean, the way I look at it is like, hey, I feel like this is going to revitalize the South. The migration, everyone's going to go south because the deductions and the benefits are going to be for living in the southern states. So if you're living in Florida, Louisiana, you're looking at this plan and saying, wow, this is really made for the middle class. And it is, if you live in a lot of the southern states. But again, we're middle class here in New Jersey, and my real estate taxes are $15,000. So there's got to be some, give and take there for for the bigger states. And again, the real estate taxes in New Jersey being that high is a product of governing in New Jersey, and that's an issue that we should look at as New Jersey residents. But that's not going to change in a minute. So if we're looking at the overall real estate business, we need some changes there.
So when are they thinking about, what are they trying to pass this in the next few months?
They're trying to get the bills formalized by Thanksgiving, they're saying, and then ultimately get it passed by the end of the year. So from the next, we have some, negotiations going on, and I'm sure there'll be changes. And I'm not so upset about the deficit part of it. It's funny because they say, well, it's gonna cost $1.5 trillion to cut to do tax reform. Cutting taxes and giving people more of their money doesn't cost the government anything. What costs the government is spending. So
right.
It's two different real categories to discuss. And so I do think it's gonna, overall it is a pro-growth tax policy, but I think we just got to make some tweaks, and it'll be a powerhouse tax reform if they can make some positive adjustments for some of the higher expense states, let's call it.
Cool. Okay. So tax reform in real estate, any effect on interest rates? I saw there were some, you got me looking at jobs numbers.
Yeah, there was a good jobs number this morning, although wages were kind of muted. Again, we need wages to go up in order for inflation to go up and asset classes to appreciate. We always hear inflation as a bad thing, but inflation is a good thing. We need a little inflation. It's like you need a little fat in your diet. You need the good fat. You need the avocados and things like that. And we need some inflation to increase asset class values. And you're getting that obviously in the stock market, record high day after day. It's kind of crazy at this point. But what has happened over the last few days is we have seen interest rates back off from the high. So 10-year bond, which always, as you know, dictates the 30-year rate, went from 2% in August up to 246, 247 about 2 weeks ago, and now we're back in that 235 range. So we've pulled back. We're still, with great credit, still well under, 4%. You're still in that 3.75 range, single family. So all good there. And it's just more of the same as, interest rates have kind of been 3.5 on the low, somewhere, August super low, maybe 3.625, or 4 3/8 to 4.5 on the high earlier in the year. So you can see we're kind of to the lower end of that range right now, and it's going to be an interesting, finish to the year. But mortgage applications are down, so I do see a lot of activity though, and I do think that we will finish the year strong. And like I said earlier, residential real estate is back. I see many strong years ahead of us. We just got to work out some of these issues in the tax reform, because those could be very detrimental to the real estate industry. And not only because it will be, it's because it will create enough doubt that it will be, right? So if you're out there right now and you're going to go buy $1 million condo, a 1-bedroom in Manhattan for $1 million, you might think twice about it now. I'm not saying it's going to stop you completely, but even like right now, the fact that the plan has come out, you might get people saying, you know what, I'm waiting till next year. It's already November. I'm not going to do anything. Let's see what happens. And
it could put a squeeze on the rental markets, right?
What's that?
It could put some pressure on the rental markets if more people do that.
Yeah, no question. Absolutely. And who wins there? We want more homeowners. It's going to be the big money that wins. It's going to be the landowner already, that's got the places to rent. So, I think they got to be careful what they're doing here. I don't trust I don't trust Washington at all to deliver a good message or to make people feel comfortable with the message they're trying to deliver. And I do feel that it could hurt us, in the short term here until we see this all play out. I mean, I've already had that conversation with people like, hey, I'm just going to wait till the new year and see what my tax situation is going to look like and see what this all looks like on paper before, I push on closing on a house.
Yeah, it makes sense because if less people are going to be buying and selling, it could soften the market. You could lose value on your house if you buy now.
Absolutely. So I've seen some research out there. They're talking about home values going down 10%. Of course, the initial reaction is gloom and doom because you got all the lobbyists out there. But any depreciation or any negative effects, like I said, we're just back on really solid footing, would be a step back at this point. That would be disappointing for sure.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go call all my investor clients, tell them they got to buy more.
Call your accountant.
Okay, but they can't take the deductions either, so it's a kind of a wash.
Well, you can call them and see what kind of deductions you should be taking, before the time is up. Although, if they do pass it by year's end, then it's obviously we're kind of stuck in limbo regardless because it'll go into effect for this year's taxes.
Right.
We'll obviously all be filing very soon. So
there ain't no way. Come on, you want to bet right now they're going to pass something before?
No way. I don't think this is going to pass the way it stands. That's my fear.
Right.
Is they just can't get out of their own way about anything, and it's pretty sad. But I'm definitely doubting, especially with the big states, New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, Massachusetts, like I said, and those congressmen they're upset because they're hearing it from their constituents that they're upset about a lot of this elimination and a lot of the loopholes. And there was other interest deductions that Trump campaigned upon that he said is just for the rich, and they left those loopholes in. So why are you messing with the mortgage interest deduction? So I
have faith. I have faith in NAR. They're very good at collecting my dues, and that they're going to put them to work here.
Yeah, me too. And the MBA, I'm Bond Street is a member of the Mortgage Bankers Association. Yeah. Dave Stevens does a great job. He was at HUD for many years, and he's, he puts out his weeklies and dailies, and I like a lot of what he has to say. And we'll see what kind of you throw the national home builders behind that too. We'll see kind of what gives there.
Cool. Okay, well, more fun stuff here. I'll just say a quick thing or two about mortgage lender co-marketing if you want.
Yeah, please.
Maybe I'll let you start. You've been doing a lot with agents and Zillow. We've talked about it recently. How are you doing? What's your take been on those Zillow leads lately?
I in talking to some really, great agents, I hear that from the Zillow perspective that they're not generating as many leads off their listings as they used to. And I know Zillow has gone to that marketplace-based system where everyone can basically bid up certain areas. And so obviously Zillow is going to drive the traffic to who bids the most. And that's probably been the biggest, complaint that I've heard about Zillow, and that they're definitely not getting, the bang for their buck like they used to per lead. The cost per lead has gone way up. They're not getting as much volume. From our perspective on the mortgage side, it's odd right now. You talk to a lot of people that come through Zillow that say they want to learn about a financing on a property, and then you call them and they're like, I don't want to know anything. I didn't check this off. I didn't fill out this 10 questionnaire that they tell you they're filling out when you're getting the data. And it's a numbers game, of course, but I do feel strongly that there's some dilution there for whatever reason. And it's probably, Zillow's a public company. They got shareholders to answer to. They have, a lot more scrutiny. They're a great company. I'm sure they'll probably, figure some things out. But I think that the kind of things that we're working on, and a lot of top level agents that, I'm very lucky to work with, that everyone's building their own brand. And they're saying, look, I can be my own little Zillow in Paramus, New Jersey, and just focus all my marketing efforts, my spend digitally, everything, I can focus on in Paramus and spend my money there. So, it's just been different, and we'll see what they bring. What are you hearing about it?
Well, yeah, I do. Well, from agents, I hear the same thing you heard about dilution. I will, to be fair to Zillow, I also know some agents who live and do very well with Zillow leads on an ROI basis. They have good follow-up systems in place. But even those guys, I was talking to a guy who spends $30,000 a month on Zillow. Even he's adding budget to Facebook and Google still.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Absolutely. The bigger budget guys that are having success and getting ROI are starting to shift some of that budget away.
Yeah. So if you guys want, I'll just plug it right now. We have our group here, facebook.com/group/Bond Street Agent Support. We just have a group where Shane and I here primarily, but you're in there sometimes too, James. We just talk about stuff that's working. You're going to see a lot of Facebook case studies and in there, and I'll have more Google and YouTube stuff in here soon. So if you're not already in there and you're an agent watching, feel free to join.
Yep, absolutely. I'm in there every day looking at the great stuff you guys are posting, commenting on some of it, and I've shared it with a lot of people. And from our perspective, really, it's about collaborating. It's about giving something of value. We are neck deep in trying to figure this out and putting our resources and our investment behind it. And we'd love to hear from everyone on if they're either utilizing some of the strategies that we're offering free of service and that you like, or other things that you might be utilizing that we can learn from and even maybe, partner up on. So
yeah, we're approaching 500 members, and it's exactly right. This is turning into a nice little kind of an incubation site where we just play with ideas and share them. So for example, I'll just leave with this, James. Today I posted a scenario where a link to a property, Facebook ad, link to a property, and you see what's going on up top here?
Yep.
This up here, you can co-market with your lender. And we're not saying you have to do it with us. Anybody want, you can do it with any lender you work with.
Right.
This is a nice way. It might be a nice alternative to Zillow where, the link gets clicked. It's a direct lead capture at the lender's site and tries to integrate and also generate a lead for the agent. You see here it asks for a fixer list if they want a fixer list where you can then give the lead back to the realtor.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so we're playing around, a little lab, so to speak, there. As I said that, I was like, oh no, there's a competing group. But we're not really competing. We all work together to come up with these ideas.
Absolutely.
And come up with our own ways of doing business. And this is just one example. So be sure to join the group.
All right. Awesome.
Anything else, James?
No, that's it, Ryan. Have a great weekend, and see you next week.
Great. All right. Have a good one.
Talk to you soon.